When it comes to replay value, Dark Souls 2 blows the other games out of the water with its NG Plus content. There are new items around the world, new weapons, new armor sets, and even new enemies. While many of these items can be accessed on the first cycle with the use of a bonfire aesthetic, there are some things that are only accessed in true NG+, or even NG Plus 2. So if there is so much new content unlocked with NG+, it should be completely viable to go through NG Plus with only those items, right? Well, that's what I'm gonna try to do today. I'm gonna beat Dark Souls 2 in NG Plus using only items found in NG Plus. And this is actually NG Plus 2, by the way. I took it upon myself to get through 2 cycles of the game without getting Estus and without leveling, so that I could start fresh for this playthrough. But before I start, there are some rules I need to go over. As you know, I'm only allowed to use equipment that is exclusive to NG+, or a bonfire intensity of 2 or greater. This includes the following. 1. All new items dropped by bosses, such as +2 rings and extra weapons. 2. All new loot found on corpses or chests in the world, such as wilted dusk herbs that replace amber herbs. 3. Anything dropped by a new enemy, even items available on the first cycle, such as any weapon dropped by a red phantom, or any other enemy that wasn't there before. 4. Any new items added to base game enemy drop tables, such as Royal Swordsmen who drop Radiant Life Gems instead of normal Life Gems. And 5. Any online exclusive items that can only be accessed offline via Chancellor Veliger's shop in NG Plus 2, as well as any other items from merchants that are added in NG+, such as the Moon Butterfly set from Molin, and the Dragon Rider set from Magarold. Any other items from base game will be discarded or sold. I am not allowed to use base game consumables, weapons, armor, rings, or spells that don't fall into the categories just listed. However, as always, there are a few exceptions. Soul items are allowed, as well as a few quality of life items such as human effigies, homeward bones, flame butterflies, and repair powder. Estus flasks are allowed, but other healing items are not allowed, unless they meet the criteria I already listed. And of course, key items and anything else required for game progression are allowed. Now, let's talk more about weapons for a bit. First, I am allowed to use any type of ammo for bows and crossbows, and can buy as much ammo as I want. Next, there are NG Plus spells, but no NG Plus casting tools, so I'll make an exception and allow a basic casting tool for every type of spell. Also, weapon upgrades and infusions are allowed, but I cannot use base game infusion materials, so my infusions will likely be limited or non-existent. Before I move on, there's another exception to weapon upgrades. I can only upgrade unique NG Plus weapons. So for example, I can upgrade the Crescent Sickle or the Chaos Blade, but on the other hand, if I get a non-unique and easy-to-find base game weapon from an NG Plus enemy, I must leave it in the state I found it. I cannot infuse or upgrade it. For example, the short sword +5 dropped by the Phantom in the tutorial area must be left at +5, but I may buff it if I wish. I will make an exception to the rules just mentioned for one NG Plus weapon that is very special in NG Plus. You may be able to guess which one I'm talking about, but you'll see what I mean later on. Finally, for challenges like this, I like to add my own limits to keep it interesting, so I am only allowed to use each weapon for 3 different bosses. Any weapon I use to damage the boss will count towards this limit, but defensive weapons won't. For example, I may use a shield to block or parry, and it will not count as a use. This applies to defensive spells as well. There is no limit to the amount of times I can use spells for buffs or healing. Offensive spells will count as a weapon in this challenge, so those can only be used for 3 different bosses. For this challenge, I'm going to apply this limit to environmental hazards as well, meaning I can only use them 3 times. This includes making a boss fall out of the map, or using anything else in the arena to kill them. One important thing to note is that I will have to burn ascetics to respawn some of the bosses to get all the weapons for this run. The key word is, I can only use a weapon for 3 different bosses, meaning I can kill the same boss with a single weapon as many times as I want. A final warning before I start the challenge is that glitches and skips are allowed. This run is very unpredictable, so if it starts to go wrong, well, expect things to get pretty funky. Hopefully I didn't forget to mention anything, and we should be ready to get into the challenge. The first weapon we can use is conveniently right up this ladder behind Molin. But the bad news is, it's a shield, and one with barely any physical damage. We're gonna be stuck with it for a long time, so we might as well accept our lot in life and push forward. The Moon Butterfly Shield is not meant to be used for its damage output, but rather its exceptional poison buildup. And since this is Dark Souls 2, most enemies are susceptible to poison, which will make our job a little easier. Just a little. Hey, it does do a good job at bashing things off cliffs, I'll give it that. There's not much to do here besides collecting whatever new loot we can find, so the last giant is our destination. As you can probably guess from my hair loss, the first boss is already giving me some trouble. Upgrading the shield didn't do much. I was hoping it would give me some faster poison buildup, but it still took the same amount of hits even at +3. Around an hour and a half later, I came up with a safer way to do this. Basically, what I do is bash, let him stomp, roll back in for another bash, and repeat those steps until he got poisoned. Once he was poisoned, I ran out of range and let him do his swipe, rolled through his legs, and ran away again. 10 minutes of that was enough to poison him to death, but this is a painfully tedious way to fight. I'm already dreading the first few bosses. What have I done? Right, let's see where we can dump these souls. I think getting ADP out of the way will save us some problems, and the rest is mostly going into Vigor. This is NG +2 after all. Up next is the Pursuer, as well as our first opportunity to use an environmental hazard to kill a boss. I wasn't necessarily expecting to hit him, but I didn't expect him to shoot at the ballista. I also didn't expect him to send flying pieces of debris towards my face. No, I'm not letting you bully me. Not this time, Pursuer. Before returning to Majula, I pick up some large Titanite shards to get our shield to +5. Next, I bought 10 shirts from Molin, so he can sell us the Moon Butterfly set. We'll get slightly more souls than usual from Dragon Rider since I used him for soul memory in a previous cycle, which is good because in all honesty, I need the extra help. I have 0 use for Lycia, so she's gonna get the Lautrec treatment. After getting my HP to 30, I figured I'd kill some enemies around Majula to complete the rest of the butterfly set. Each piece will passively cause poison to all who dare approach us, which includes NPCs, so it's important to take it off before talking to anyone. I thought the Ruined Sentinels might be a good idea since they are very weak to poison and are guarding Strayed, who is crucial for the run. I also really didn't like the idea of going through No Man's Wharf with this shield. Each sentinel only takes 3 hits to poison, but that didn't end up doing much to ease the pain. The wiki informed me that this bozo in the Things Betwixt drops a short sword +5, so if I could manage to get that, I could use it as a secondary weapon. I've gotta be careful though because this guy hits hard, and I also gotta make sure he doesn't fall off so I can still get and so much for that. Not to worry, we still have this Katarina Knight who will give us a nice upgraded broadsword to get through the first few bosses. Huh? It's not guaranteed? Oh, what a fool I was to base an entire run on my silly assumptions. That crushed my soul a little bit, but I had to put my despair on the back burner so I could focus on finishing the Ruined Sentinels. Poisoning them one by one took a lot of patience, and the whole fight was pretty nerve-wracking. In order to do this, I really had to take my time between each hit. Not to mention, I would have to do this several times to finish off both of them. By the time I made it to a one-on-one fight, I ran out of Estus, but still had an emergency Divine Blessing that I picked up somewhere. Thankfully, I didn't have to use it because I managed to poison Riche for the last time. Now that was a challenge. I've just about had it with this stupid shield already. After that bashing bash, Endurance was overdue for some upgrading, and of course I continued to upgrade Vigor whenever I could. I was thinking about my rooting some and decided it would be best to head towards the next weapon trader, Ornifex. But that means we'll have to face Najka, who happens to be immune to poison, the one thing that's been carrying my sorry ass this whole time. Without it, we would be pretty screwed if there didn't happen to be a light at the end of the tunnel. All we need to do is bait her tail slam and climb on top of her. We'll be stuck bashing her with a shield for who knows how long. But seeing as we don't have any other weapons, all it takes is a positive attitude and 3 hours to spare. Whoa, wait, hang on, don't buck me off. I didn't know that could happen. Seriously, what else could go wrong in this playthrough? In hindsight, I'm actually glad I was doing this wrong, which I figured out later, but that's beside the point. The reason I'm glad I did this wrong is because I checked the wiki and noticed this little detail. Yeah, she has 10,000 HP in NG+, and I was doing maybe 16 per hit? After the series of unfortunate events that led me to where I am now, I had to scour the internet for help. I found a very helpful tutorial for this parry jump glitch to skip the Shrine of Winter and get right to Drangleic. All you have to do is wear the moon butterfly skirt, parry this guy, then line up with his leg, and press jump and attack at the same time to jump over him, after which you'll tear apart the fabric of reality and be able to traverse the astral plane for a mere 30 seconds. To make sure you don't fall through the map, keep to the left and jump off sooner rather than later, but make sure you stay above the path. Don't make the same mistake I did and land inside a branch, otherwise you'll be stuck and have to do this all over again. Doing that successfully will grant you passage to Drangleic Castle, and there's nothing like an NG+ Red Phantom to render all your hard work useless and force you to start over again. I was dumb enough to let that guy kill me, twice, but once the moment came for the gates to open, the sense of accomplishment was so much greater. My man, you have no idea how happy I am to see you. Chancellor Veliger, the messiah of the playthrough, sells 3 weapons for us at a reasonable price. Weapons that normally are acquired after days of PvP. He's also so generous that he gives us all the Covenant exclusive spells, such as the fabled Wrath of the Gods and the explosive Great Chaos Fireball. The enemies dropped plenty of souls for me to buy a couple weapons off of him, and I can kill a few more to help me reach the dex requirements of the weapons. I didn't have much to do, so I went down here to kill this Firekeeper for the Denji set. I was starting to have dreams that Miquella from Elden Ring had these butterfly wings in the DLC, so for my own health I needed to wear something a little less psychedelic. To reach that 20 dexterity I needed for the Twin Blade, I farmed some dogs and killed some pursuers, which also allowed me to get some Twinkling Titanite for upgrades. After that, I went around the map dispatching various creatures of all shapes and sizes until I reached my goal. Now that we are capable of actually doing damage, it's time to give Najka another shot. Earlier, I was talking about how I was doing this wrong. Well, here's what I figured out. I kept moving too far down her tail. It's best to stay closer to her and kind of use her staff as a guide. If her staff is all the way in front of you, you're too far back and it'll trigger an attack and she'll just buck you off. But once that's all sorted out, I can get the first new ring of the run, the Southern Ritual Band +2, which gives us a few more attunement slots. Speaking of that, I went ahead and got some intelligence before hitting the road. At the campsite, we're greeted with these giant boars, and for whatever reason, I find them easier to kill than the little ones. There are only 2 of these guys, and they'll each drop a divine blessing, which of course is very useful, since those are few and far between in this run. I use the excess souls to put some levels into strength, and then make my way towards the next boss. But in NG+, you'll be interrupted by an early Freya encounter, and these peasants kept getting in my way, so I wasn't able to really do any damage before she jumped back down into her hole. I decided not to let anything else distract me and went straight down to Magus and friends. For this one, I pulled out the butterfly shield one more time so that I wouldn't have to waste a use of any of my good weapons. And man, was that a poor decision. I didn't learn my lesson from the last time I tried pure poison on these guys. The worst part is I have to beat these guys as soon as possible, because I aggroed the blacksmith with the butterfly set because I didn't think I was close enough, despite his multiple warnings. Eventually, I got my lucky break and was able to get Magus out of the way without giving the priests a chance to heal him. As for the rest of the mob, you can sit in a corner and enjoy the show as their number diminishes. That's enough for a measly 1 level. So once again, I killed some pursuers off camera for more levels, and another upgrade for the curved twin blade. Before Freya, I make sure to pick up these wilted dusk herbs outside the arena. Then, as usual, I prepare for a long, boring encounter with a one-handed weapon and a one-shotting boss. She's also a little stronger since I used her for soul memory in a previous cycle, so that's fun. While it took a long time and I couldn't make many mistakes, the reward was high, and I came out of it with 100k souls to my name. I pump everything I have into Vigor since we're still in one-shot territory at this point, and since things will only do more damage from here. Right before the Sinner's Rise, NG Plus adds a copy of Resplendent Life as loot, so hopefully we'll be able to get good use out of it. Then we can thank whoever the sadist in charge of NG Plus was for the most inconveniently placed enemies possible. Now, I can finally challenge the Lost Sinner and, you guessed it, encounter even more inconveniently placed enemies. This wasn't going so well, so I switched to the Crescent Sickle for this one. She tends to dodge all over the place, so a longer weapon is a better choice here. The damage is also pretty decent, as long as you get her in the weapon's sweet spot. But you know relying on something like that will never be consistent. These pyromancers, man. The moment they enter the fight, I barely have any Estus left for the boss. I can only focus on dodging so many things at once, you know. Every time I try to take them out first, she comes up behind me and one-shots me. But every time I try to ignore them and focus solely on the actual boss of this fight, they both go crazy with fireballs. Well, I'd had enough of that for one day, so I rushed down to the Black Gulch to deal with the Rotten instead. We're still getting some solid damage from the Crescent Sickle, so that's pretty good. And this fight isn't particularly difficult, especially with a decent ADP. Mainly, we've got to watch our stamina so it doesn't run out. Remember, in NG Plus 2, most things can one-shot us, so a quick dodge can be the difference between life and death. He did this weird cleaver AoE that I don't normally see, and since I wasn't used to dealing with that, well, I died. Unfortunately for him, however, now that it's in my repertoire, I can exploit it just as easily as his other moves, and take him down for some easy money. Put it all into Vigor, baby. Oh, and maybe just 1 in Vitality. I think that'll suffice for now. The Lost Sinner can jump into the ocean for all I care. I'm going to Huntsman's Copse. How in the world have I played this game a billion times and just discovered by accident that you can break the boards on the windows? Now that I've been enlightened, let there be light. After barely making it to the first bonfire, I pick up this Elizabeth mushroom, take Forlorn out of the picture, then pick up some more things that I totally won't hoard in my inventory for the rest of the playthrough. I tried to bring Rowena to a safer spot since I had so many phantom enemies on my tail, but what ended up happening instead was I fought her in such an enclosed space that I just barely escaped from turning this into a 2v1 fight with her and Creighton. About those spirit enemies, they never left me alone. Yep, he's still trying to squeeze in here. Just look at him go. Now is when we start with attunement. I promise it will be important later on. Currently, we have plenty of melee weapons at our disposal, so I'm not too worried about spells just yet. This will be the final use of the curved twin blade, as any problems it presented with other fights won't make a difference for the skeleton lords. Yet, somehow, I died to this. Yes, I died to the skeleton lords. That's a first even for me. Besides the fact that I let the skeletons bully me and used all my Estus, this fight still wasn't too much trouble, but definitely more trouble than it's ever been for me. It's fun to hit the mob with the twin blade and watch all the health bars go down, but the poise damage is low, so I could very easily get wobbled to death if I'm not careful. For this particular fight, I preferred the one-handed moveset since it was safer and much friendlier on my stamina, and that helped me take out the surviving stragglers. Cloanne's coming with us to Majula while we level our attunement. Alright, so here, the aspect ratio on the recording got messed up, so I'll show you what I did. As you can see, I got the Ring of Blades +2 from the Twin Pursuers in this throne room, which is a great ring that will stay with us for the whole run. Not only that, but one of them dropped a washing pole as well. Also, I bought some spells from the Chancellor, and picked up an extra copy of Great Magic Barrier from the statue room. And finally, I bought the Spirit Tree Shield and upgraded it to +6. I upgraded it because that's what we're gonna be using next. On stupid bosses like the rats, I don't want to waste a use of a decent weapon, so I'm gonna try to get this one done with the shield. I think that's manageable. Sadly, this didn't end up being the easy fight I thought it would be. While we do get some high petrification resistance from the Dingy set, the physical damage from the rats is actually still really high, and unless you manage to be behind a rat on the first blow, a bash with the shield will always be a trade with the rat. Due to that, I ended up taking a lot of damage on this fight, and didn't really have enough healing items by the time the Vanguard dropped in. I had to equip some monastery charms for healing and to protect myself from the poison, since I knew I would just be trading hits. I actually wasn't doing so bad. I even had a charm to spare, but if you run out of stamina while shield bashing and get attacked, it will count as a stance break in the same way as it would when blocking. And with so many enemies crowded around me, this was just the inevitable result of that fact. Linnigrost forgave me for the little incident earlier, and upgraded my shield to +10 to prove his lack of malice. So now we can breeze through the Harvest Valley and use our fancy new shield against the Covetous Demon. Regardless of damage, this is a boss I was willing to fight with anything really, so it'll be a good way to get some quick souls for our other endeavors. I know it doesn't look like much, but I was very surprised with the damage. I didn't expect it to be anywhere close to 100, so I was more than happy to see 175 on the screen. Somehow this little guy escaped his enclosure, which gave me a nice chance for some free hits. As if this fight weren't easy enough already, even with that divine intervention, I still almost died and finished the Covetous Demon off at one more hit away from death. Shield bashing always inspires me to invest in my endurance. There are a lot of early bosses still sitting around, so to remedy that, I'm finally gonna start clearing out some of the optional bosses I missed. I'm just gonna ignore this phantom and carry on with my task of defeating the Drake. He's not a big deal. Once you clear the enemies out, you can just run past him for a safe path to the cathedral. Are you serious? How do I even let these things happen? Dying to this set me back a little because for some reason after that first lucky time, the phantoms kept catching me at the fog gate. But Blue Ornstein himself is nothing to worry about. I just need to actually pay attention. This fight was very easy, even with an unupgraded washing pole, and 50k souls is a very nice reward for getting this area done. After that, we are going to return to the Huntsman's Copse for some more quick cleanup. I don't want to make an NG +2 Executioner's Chariot any more difficult than it needs to be, so I'm gonna spend another use of the Crescent Sickle for this. I guess it's fitting, since the Covenant you get it from is right behind the boss. For the first time in my life, I used a shield for this fight. The Spirit Tree shield isn't the best out there for damage negation, but it was enough to keep me safe from the skeletons, and it saved me from death a few times. Towards the last Necromancer, this fight started getting pretty chaotic. Everything just does so much damage. It's honestly kind of a miracle that this was the attempt that would ultimately end in my victory. The Crescent Sickle was very effective against the horses, and in NG+, they dropped the most useful ring we can get in this run, the Chloranthy ring +2. I like how when you talk to NPCs while holding this, it looks like you're beheading them. After getting some levels, I was off to do some more cleanup, this time in No Man's Wharf. At this point, where I went came down to what I was willing to fight with an unupgraded washing pole, and Flexile Sentry didn't seem like it would be too difficult for this. But there's another fun surprise in here. 2 shadows who synchronize with a sentry to bleed you out for twice the fun. This was already looking pretty bad, but thankfully it didn't take as long as I feared. At some point I was lucky enough to isolate 1 shadow and finish it with 1 stamina bar. Then, after recuperating from the damage, I saw another opportunity and quickly took it, taking care of the other shadow before the sentry could reach me. The washing pole is not the best weapon in the world. I mean, of course it's not. I'm in NG+2 and can't upgrade it. But I guess the biggest problem with not upgrading it is its low durability. And doing less damage means dealing more blows. So thankfully I had some repair powder on me. By no means was I going to squander an opportunity to kill it without its friends. So I took my time and stayed on the club side, which has easier attacks to dodge. It's pretty nice to have another area crossed off the list, and I'll happily claim this Pyromancy Flame for our Great Chaos Fireball. Next, let's start investing in some faith. We're gonna do a couple more chores, like getting Estus upgrades, and finally freeing Ornifex for some weapon trading. I was doing some thinking, and ultimately decided that, you know what? Why complicate things by trying to fight a bunch of rats with a shield? These guys tend to be used as my lab rats for silly weapons, hence the bat staff from last time and the fists and torch combo from my first video. But at the end of the day, I don't really feel like fighting them with a shield, so I won't. I'll use an unupgraded washing pole instead. I don't mind letting go of this weapon for the rats, because I have a feeling there are still some bosses ahead of us who will be just fine even with the shield. So with that nuisance out of the way, I'm gonna work on getting intelligence high enough for the Moonlight Greatsword. Before we use it, it's time to send off another weapon with some lame rats. Maybe I'll get some use out of my last Divine Blessing too. I chose the Crescent Sickle because I wanted something that I knew could reach these little ankle biters, but even if I miss just one, I'm dead before I even get a chance to heal. Dying to those toxic guys in the beginning is understandable. It's a common problem with this fight, but dying to the authority itself, well, that's just sad. Even I'm at a loss for words with this one. Hear me out on this part though, I swear I was nowhere near its mouth. Anyways, we're gonna pretend that didn't even happen, and try to get rid of the little guys again. I did end up getting toxic from them, but luckily enough, all things are balanced, so for every janky hitbox that reaches you from a light year away, there's a janky hitbox that misses you at point blank. Once the toxic rats are gone, it's just a matter of not being stupid and willingly standing in its vomit, then the fight is done. Now, we've nearly reached our goal of 18 intelligence. To reach it, we're gonna have to kill a few enemies, pick up some soul items, take care of unfinished business, and finally, sell whatever we can't use to Gavlan. The combined souls from all that will be just enough to use the sword. Now, let's give Lost Sinner another shot, this time with a Moonlight Greatsword. That damage is looking a lot better, plus it's a lot more consistent than the sickle. As usual, my main problem is gonna be the Pyromancers. I tried ignoring them before, I tried being super aggressive with them before, but those tactics have been leading me to dead ends. So this time, I'm gonna use a combination of those two things. I'm not gonna attack them directly, but try to at least keep both of them on my camera at all times, while still prioritizing the Lost Center when dodging. Yeah, that's what I thought. Run away. Who are you gonna hide behind now? Sweet, sweet revenge. Every old one will drop a ton of souls, so we can get intelligence to 20 already, with Faith following closely behind. Before I forget, let's also make the Chaos Blade with the Old Witch soul. Oh yeah, and we still haven't gotten the Crypt Black Sword. Earthen Peak doesn't offer too many new things besides these divine blessings, but we can level up again after clearing the area, and now's as good a time as any to try out our only pyromancy, Great Chaos Fireball. Mytha is very weak to fire, so even only having 2 casts is enough to take out huge chunks of her health before having to eat an herb. She also takes a lot of damage from the lava pools, which normally do pitiful damage to enemies, but with her long tail, she tends to get caught in it when she slides around. A cool little thing happened when I killed her during her head throw. For a second, she actually had 2 heads. But even when she put her heads together, she couldn't think of a way to win the fight. Anyways, this time I think I'm gonna start getting attunement back on track. Now it's time for the Iron Keep. This time I decided to head towards the Old Iron King first, because I already made it all the way to the bonfire and didn't have any reason to backtrack other than to kill Smelter Demon, which can wait. For now, we're gonna use the 200k souls we got from all the times we cleared enemies and died in Iron Keep, which comes to a whopping 7 levels. That happens to be enough to get Dex to at least 25, the requirement to use the Chaos Blade. We might as well see if we can upgrade it, and maybe some other things too. I won't show upgrades as much in this video since I'm in NG+2, so just assume that weapons are usually upgraded to around max when I use them. Now let's try out our new weapon on none other than the Old Iron King himself. All things considered, the damage really isn't that bad, and the health penalty on hit isn't as noticeable in this fight because it's turn-based combat. His attacks are too slow to catch anyone off guard between heals. Everyone knows the real threat is that hole on the side of the arena. Well, there we go. That's all the old ones defeated. For now. We'll have to come back to most of them sooner or later, but let's just take it one step at a time. At this point, we have a respectable number of attunement slots. We can get a spell from the Old King's Soul, not to be confused with the Old Iron King's Soul, but let's start with the Dragon Slayer Great Bow. A bow is just a good thing to have around when there's new enemies scattered about. Speaking of new enemies, love or hate Dark Souls 2, I think there's one thing we can all agree on. That the Iron Keep just doesn't have enough enemies. I mean, seriously, what were they thinking here? I'm glad NG Plus rounded it out some and added new enemies to those gratuitous safe zones. That being said, if you can get to that pesky demon down the hall, it's not all that bad, and now we're fighting it with the real deal. Not the bootleg Moonlight Greatsword like last time. Yeah, see? I told you everything would be just fine. I'm glad I remembered the bow in time. It is practically a requirement for getting through here with your sanity preserved. And if it weren't for that ADP from the beginning of the run, I probably would have died here because of my typical impatient greed. I'd say I got a good return on that investment. Faith is at 20 now, but we have a long way to go before being able to use any miracles. To get us there a little faster, I decided to kill both Freya and the Old Iron King one more time, which is enough faith to use Wrath of the Gods. We're gonna use that against the last boss left before Drangleic, the good old Belfry Gargoyles. Of course, we're running on an unoptimized setup, but I'm sure the damage will still be enough to get through this. Moving on to Plan B, Great Chaos Fireball. The damage here is much better, and since I have 2 casts instead of 1, I won't have to eat through as many spell recovery items. As long as I can finish this in one go, we should be good as far as our herbs go. Yeah, I can smell the foreshadowing too. Eventually, it came down to me and the last gargoyle. I had to use my crimson water, the last item I had, to restore my fireballs. It was all going smoothly, and with the lava taking away some extra health, this was shaping up to be a perfect fight. Are you kidding me? Do I have to do everything myself around here? I'm probably not going to use that, but thanks anyway. I'm going to stop by the cells for some spells. Then it's time for a Dragon Rider rematch. I did get some use out of Resplendent Life here, as it did slightly offset the health loss from the katana. The Chaos Blade won't interfere too much with the flow of this fight, and we're definitely dishing out some solid damage this time around. But sometimes, overconfidence can be one's downfall. Minus the greed, this was easily taken care of, so we can get our 6th attunement slot, and finally get that last Estus shard. After vanquishing yet another very conveniently placed phantom, we can head straight into the next boss fight. Looking Glass Knight should make for an epic send-off for our Moonlight Greatsword, and the damage actually hasn't dropped off as much as I expected, even in NG+2. It made it possible to clear out the minion very quickly, and before long, I had finished this one on the first attempt. Would you look at that, finally, another universally useful ring. Levels are starting to get expensive. It's too bad we need over 50 intelligence and faith to use our other spells. In light of that, I did some more farming, and now have 3 copies of Crystal Soul Spear and Blinding Bolt. I'll get intelligence to 30 for now, but I am focusing on faith first because I have some bosses in mind for Blinding Bolt. Despite all the odds being against me, I managed to get through the Shrine of Amana in one sitting, without dying once. Sure, I ran out of Estus, but this was still one of the easiest run-throughs I've had in a long time. I'd like to thank my good friend, the Dragon Slayer Greatbow. The hardest part is done, so let's see what we can do against the Demon of Song. This is one of the bosses that I was confident enough to use the shield for. I didn't want it to go to waste, since it still has a couple uses left. I think the shield held up really well. I was shocked to see 3 digits on the damage. Once again, I know it doesn't look like much, but it felt like a pretty big deal for me during this shield bashing fest. This wasn't that difficult, just very boring. So let's move on. First, I'll claim the next bonfire, then claim those levels for 40 faith. After clearing out the enemies in the Undead Crypt, we'll have enough souls to get the 20 strength needed to two-hand the Crypt Blacksword. Of course, we have to bring it back to its roots and use it to take out the area boss of the Undead Crypt, Velstadt. He supposedly has high dark resistance, but I didn't notice a huge impact on the damage we were doing. Keep in mind, it isn't fully upgraded either. The problem I had wasn't with the attacks, but the fact that this thing is so heavy and I had to get used to a different roll animation. Velstadt's hitboxes can be janky, but once you get the timing, with decent ADP, you should be fine, even with a heavier equip load. As always, when using slow weapons against him, it's best to only hit him once and then immediately prepare to dodge, even if you whiff, especially in NG+2. The greed is not worth it. He does so much damage. I managed to have time for a couple R2 attacks during his buff, and even then, the damage reduction wasn't too much of a hassle. It would have been fun if I had summoned Agdane for double Crypt Black Swords, but then again, I don't want to give this guy any more health than he already has, and Agdane sucks, okay? Just one Crypt Black Sword was enough to get that done, and we get a ring that probably would have been useful during this fight, but we'll still get to use it. The Crypt Black Sword hasn't seen the end of its lifespan just yet. As for those levels, I'll get back on track with Faith. Now, it's time for my favorite base game area, Aldia's Keep. This place should be fun, because we have a good amount of new items to collect, and a very unique NPC who is the only source of a weapon and an armor set. So, let's see what I get this time. The Monastery Longshirt, also known as the Painting Guardian robe. Let's take a look at it. I think that looks pretty good. It doesn't quite fit seamlessly with the skirt, but I like it. I might have to start wearing this soon. Ah, the simple Guardian Dragon, the perfect way to spend the last use of my tree shield. Once again, fighting this way isn't too much more difficult, but it just takes a long time and has short range. Overall, this isn't something I would die to in this run. See? Look at that. First try. What follows is a very, very long and tedious farming session because it just so happens that one of the only weapons I can use in this run is based on RNG. To respawn this phantom, I had to fight the Guardian Dragon each time that I didn't get the drop. But I'd say it was worth it for the 2 million souls I got from all the attempts. So, after making off with our Monastery Scimitar, which is a fancy name for the Painting Guardian sword, we can get our faith right at the 65 mark it needs to be for Blinding Bolt, with some souls left over for intelligence. For this one, I tried to use my final environmental hazard by using the cheese where they fall off the map, but I don't have a good enough shield to block their damage, and the only thing I ended up cheesing was myself. Maybe that's more trouble than it's worth. Enough with that nonsense. Let's just smack him around with a giant sword. Yeah, look at that damage. There's no way the cheese was worth it over pummeling them with this thing. Go ahead, heal him if it makes you feel better, but all you're doing is forcing him to meet his cruel fate a second time. Come on, look at the bright side. At least you won't have to die alone. A good ring, but not one that I really end up using. After passing through the trials of the dragon, we'll get the Ashen Mist Heart, then turn back around to refill our flasks so we can electrocute him to death. For this fight, it'll take the combined efforts of Wrath of the Gods and Blinding Bolt. We don't have too many casts, but since we killed Freya so many times, we did get to pick up some of those Wilted Dusk herbs, so we have plenty of chances to refill on spells. Here's where I managed to get his health without refilling. I've gotta say, Blinding Bolt has exceeded my expectations. That is pretty impressive. It's definitely easier to land it on a large target, but every now and then the initial orb collides with his body and cancels out the rest of the spell. Rewatching this was pretty frustrating because, looking back, I feel like I had such a good window to heal here, but hindsight's always 20/20. Also, it looks like his foot didn't actually touch me. Apparently the shockwave just blasted me away. Well, I don't have nearly enough herbs to continue on like this, so we're gonna move on to something of importance, the Giant Lord. More specifically, the Bonfire Ascetic and souls we can farm here. I decided to bust out the Crypt Sword again because it will always be consistent. I can rely on it for an hour of farming, and as a little bonus, the Giant Lord is weak to dark damage. And when we're done, we'll get a free Divine Blessing. We'll never be short on healing items again. That's actually only gonna be enough for one level at the moment, but we'll be back. We'll be back. So, anyways, we're just gonna use these 10 million souls here to get attunement to 94, which is apparently the hard cap for spell uses, and go ahead and rest and watch as we get 2 more casts of Wrath of the Gods and 12 more of Blinding Bolt. It took some extra time to farm for this, but in the long run it's worth it, because it means we won't have to worry about running out of uses for our spells. And we only have a couple of spells anyway, and with only 1 or 2 more melee weapons left, that's gonna be pretty important for the late game bosses. So yeah, that's making a big difference in the damage we can do at once. And it makes mistakes more forgiving. As you can see, I missed a lot. With more casts, I somehow did less damage than my first attempt. Probably the impatience again. Nevertheless, I got it done this time, and was honestly surprised that I could level at all at this point. I don't know what to do with all those extra souls, so why not buy the Dragon Rider set? That physical defense is kinda crazy, but more importantly, how does it look? Never mind, that looks dorky as hell. Look at my tiny head. Okay, I like functionality too. Those numbers don't lie. I think we're gonna give it a shot if our equip load can manage. For instance, this guy, Vendrick, will probably one-shot me. But maybe that extra defense will leave us with a sliver of health in a dire situation. Who knows? With that line of thinking, I figured it wouldn't matter if I used the Chaos Blade, since, full health or not, I probably can only take at most 2 hits from this guy. Sadly, I didn't get to test the Dragon Rider armor here. I ended up doing this without getting hit. It's just that I've gotten used to this fight again. Once you surgically attach yourself to his left leg, you'll be just fine. There is one more optional boss to get rid of, but before that, I'm gonna get my revenge on the Lost Center a second time, because one time just isn't enough. Or that's what I thought I'd do when I smugly walked in with my 2 phantoms in tow. What actually happened was, I ended up stuck all by myself with a buffed Lost Sinner and had to resort to divine blessings because she milked me dry of Estus. I don't even care, that's still better than the pyromancers. Now, we're gonna get what we came here for and pick up the flame weapon pyromancy from the old witch Soul. One more secret boss lurks in the shadows, and we're well equipped to challenge it. Lighting the flames unlocks the path to true darkness, where we're gonna light things up more with flame weapon, and give this a go with the monastery scimitar. Off to a great start. Here comes the damage test. Interesting. A little under my expectation this time, but certainly not debilitating. Oh, okay, here's where it's at. It only really shines when I can get in multiple hits. I ended up having another tense fight with the Dark Lurkers, running out of Estus and almost getting caught in their death traps. I even made a really stupid mistake at the end with the laser, but somehow I still survived my first attempt and lucked out with the next attack being a close range one. With every other base game boss completed, all the pieces are in place, and the last 2 bosses are ready to be challenged. The first one up is Nashandra, and I have this funny feeling that she's gonna have a really bad time with our miracles. Yep, that's some good damage. I am by no means disappointed. You gotta remember that we're running a bare bones setup without any buffs, and with a basic chime, so just imagine how good this would be with a fully decked out setup. Even with the bare minimum, it only took 3 casts of Wog and 10 of Blinding Bolt. I am pretty impressed with the Humble Priest chime, even if it isn't the starter chime. I think that's actually the Cleric's chime, but oh well, it's too late now. While Aldia rambles, let's get our loadout switched to accommodate the Dragon Slayer's Great Bow. Vengarl supplied us with 999 Great Arrows, so that should be enough to hold us over for a long time. I didn't show this on camera, but this is technically the second use of the Great Bow because I used it during the Guardian Dragon fight, so I could hit it in the air. Aldia is another good choice for a bow. The reason being that this fight is one of those turn-based ones that we all dread, so it doesn't change anything about the fight if you use melee or ranged attacks. Regardless, I found myself running out of stamina with the bow and making dumb mistakes that took all my flasks. But I have a huge stock of healing items now to prevent those mistakes from becoming fatal. Aldia may be no more, but we've still got another journey before we call it quits. After farming Freya again, I finally have enough levels to use Crystal Soul Spear. We'll put that aside for the time being, because the next boss we have to face is not particularly weak to magic. Instead, we're gonna take out our flame weapon Scimitar again and try it against Ava. Fire seems like a logical counter to a frozen creature, and even an NG+2. It didn't take long for her health bar to start melting away. However, I did another stupid thing here by underestimating the damage she did to my weapon. So I swung it one too many times and broke it, rendering the repair powder I took along useless. But it'll take a lot more than a broken weapon to make me give up. I was so close to the end, I just kept on pushing, and eventually beat her on the first try with my broken scimitar. I don't have much of a use for souls at this point, but vitality was looking neglected, so I just started leveling that. Now that the storm is gone, we're free to get the Curved Nil Greatsword. Many of you probably already guessed this, but this is the special NG weapon I was hinting at in the intro. What's special about this weapon is, it actually scales with your NG cycle, and it gets a red aura as you go through more cycles. So this is, as far as I know, the only weapon in the series that gains different properties in NG+. Come on now, that's just way too cool for me to pass up on an NG+ run. That'll come into play really soon, but next, I'm actually going to go ahead and take care of the gank squad in the Cave of the Dead. I'm pretty sure a bow won't pose an issue here, but I guess I didn't realize how well they dodge everything, especially the other bow boy over here. If I can hit at least one of them, I can start to gauge the damage. The first grave robber seems to be a better target than Havel. It'll just be a bit of a chore to keep them separated long enough to pull off a shot. Nah, I don't feel like doing that. That's right, gather around, gather around. Hey, what are you doing? Put that away. Hey, where are you going? Never mind. I'm sure it's nothing important that'll affect me in any way. After repositioning, I killed Grave Robber first since Havel decided to pop an Estus, and the archer finally switched to melee, so the fight's practically over already. With a great bow, if you use this strategy, keep walking forward as you shoot, because the pushback on the animation will send you right back down into the water, and nobody wants that to happen. Nice moves you got there. I'll crawl out from behind the rocks to get the final shot, just to prove that I am indeed the superior archer. Ilana gets to be our very first target for Crystal Soul Spear. I'm not feeling too bad about this. Maybe we'll finally catch a break from the summoning madness. Ow, ow, ow. Ow. Well then, I guess let's try this again. No, not a Velstadt already. Really, Ilana? You're gonna do this to me? You know what? It's fine. I'll just get rid of him. Now how are you gonna run away from your problems, Ilana? Oh, you're just gonna summon another one. No cooldown or anything, no skeletons, just back-to-back Velstadts. Well, unfortunately for you, Ilana, I've dealt with far worse already. Pyromancers. So your little helper here won't distract me from my mission. With the one level I earned from that fight, I can get 26 dex to wield the Curved Nil Greatsword. This weapon falls in a weird spot regarding the rules, so there's an extra rule we have to follow for this weapon exclusively. Since it is a weapon from NG, normally it wouldn't be allowed to be upgraded. But since it changes in NG+, unlike any other weapons, I think it's different enough to be exempt from that rule, partially. Here's what I'll do with this. I'll use it against every final boss of the DLC, but I can only upgrade it to a certain level before beating each boss. For example, for the first boss, it will start at +1, then advance to +3, and then finally to +5. So, with our +1 Curved Nil Greatsword, let's take on Sin. What the? That was weird. What's going on with that pole? Alright, let's stay focused on the task at hand. I've got plenty of repair powder, so I'm not concerned about damage, even if it's on the low side. For NG +2, that damage is not too bad. I've just gotta be careful. For some reason, this attack just never clicks with me. A few tries later, and things are looking up. I get a tail cut, which doesn't give you a weapon, but it is a neat gimmick nonetheless. It will prevent a few attacks, which takes away some of my fear, in addition to the safety net from his toxic breath that the Divine Blessings give me. There we go. 1 DLC down, 2 to go. Once again, all we really need at this point is Vitality, and before we depart for the next DLC, we've earned a few upgrades on the Curved Nil Greatsword. Going down the list will take us to the crown of the Old Iron King, and in turn, the Iron Passage. It's business as usual in the first few halls. Pull the lever, run through the bozos, dodge the fireballs, Kill this guy. Kill that guy. Pull this lever. Run through these bozos. Dodge these fireballs. Now we should be safe. Let's just take a moment to catch our breath. No, this can't be happening. Look, I'm fine with an extra chicken wing guy, but an extra astrologer too? Is nothing enough anymore? Not a terrible first attempt, right? Well, next time should be better. I'm gonna swap to the Dragon Rider set for some extra physical defense. Hopefully it helps to some degree. It won't do much for the magic damage though. I'm using the Scimitar for Blue Smelty because I don't have many spell recovery items, and my spells would likely do awful damage anyway. So with a little fire, it goes a long way. Well, not a very long way. This fight still took a very long time to complete. Probably around 7 minutes or so with this sword. But a win is a win. I'm mainly just glad to be done with the run back. Oh my god, he's still shooting at me. In most cases, we won't have enough souls to level anymore, so onwards to the Fume Knight. 365 HP per hit is damage I'll take any day of the year on NG+2, especially considering the staff we're using. And if my last experience with him on a caster build is anything to go by, this should still be a pushover despite our limitations. Listen to me when I tell you to not skip ADP day. Wait, I didn't mean to call you a pushover. I'm sorry. Alright, slow down. You need to be taking this seriously. This guy means business today. Yeah, here I am running out of verbs trying to use Blinding Bolt, the same person who was like, oh, this'll be easy, I'll just use spells and beat him first try. In theory, the lightning could have worked, seeing the amount of casts I had left, but it isn't easy to land it on humanoid targets, and the casting time is too long to justify using it with the risks that are already involved. I really couldn't afford to use all my spell recovery items, so I killed Freya one last time to get the maximum amount of casts I can carry, which is 30 with the Southern Ritual Band. With this improved setup, I only had to use one spell recovery item and was able to defeat him with several casts to spare. Surprisingly, this was still just as difficult as it usually is. The ramped up difficulty in NG+2 combined with the limited equipment made this a much more fair and fun experience as a caster. Being able to level at this point is a nice surprise, so we can have extra vitality for next time. Well, you know what's next. Our curved nail sword has already been prepared, so it's time to make the sprint of a lifetime. And yes, before you ask, there are new enemies here too. Ugh, finally. We're here. It's no Iron Passage for sure, but it's definitely up there. Time to see what this thing can do against Sir Alon. Of course, damage doesn't actually matter in this fight. It's all about pacing. I mean, high damage will never hurt, but if you're doing low damage on this fight, it's not something to be concerned about. It's more about looking for short openings than it is about tanking, and to me, that's what makes it so much fun every time. Dying to him wasn't such a big deal, since it was still pretty early into the fight, and we have plenty of time to get back in the groove. All it takes is timing your dodges, as you mainly dodge to the right, and watching out for his delayed swings. Using that knowledge, stay calm, and you will win. Heal as much as you need, then just listen to the music and let it play out. And there you go. Now wasn't that much better than Blue Smelter Demon? Wow, that sure is a nice view you got from here. Now it's time for the hardest part of any Dark Souls 2 playthrough, the Frigid Outskirts. I'm pulling out all the stops and dumping every spell I have into the mix, and then we'll kinda just throw those at them and see what works. Do I even have to tell you what I'm gonna say next? Is it too much to ask to have the path to the arena free from danger, at the very least? I feel much safer in here than out there, and I know I have my pyromancy to rely on if nothing else. My pyromancy is very limited, so those are quick to run out. I shouldn't have used an herb so early. I guess my mindset was that they were stronger against magic, and it might not have been worth trying. But I should have known that I wouldn't do this in one try anyways. So, as the story goes, I come back after hours of playing around in the snow, and completely eliminate Blinding Bolt from the rotation, because it's useless. I didn't end up using Wrath of the Gods either, because it was too risky. Contrary to what I thought, the Crystal Soul Spears are still a good way to damage them. The sheer amount of them makes them the better choice over my other spells. After patiently waiting out the healing wave, I was rewarded in kind for my struggles with nothing. But we can at least use a small fraction of those souls to finish upgrading the Curved Nail Greatsword. The final boss won't be too tricky, but the Wave of Knights will always be a pain. I swear, sometimes these guys aren't even trying to keep me alive. Seeing as I still had another use left for my miracles, I brought them along to the final battle so they could have one last chance to redeem themselves. Blinding Bolt didn't redeem itself, but Wrath of the Gods was fun as a little gimmick before I switched back over to melee. If you noticed the game audio going out at the end of the fight, there's an explanation for that too. You see, my cat was being pretty feisty, and she stood up on her hind legs and yanked the headphones out of the jack with her mouth because she needed me to be all ears for her demands. Regardless, nothing could stop my momentum, and the Burnt Ivory King goes down on the first attempt. Not counting the knights, of course. It was a great battle, and one worthy of the final use of the Curved Nail Greatsword for sure. Thank you very much for watching my video. I always enjoy another journey through Drangleic, or 3 in this case, so I hope you had fun as well. Like I always say, feel free to leave me suggestions in the comments, whether they are ideas for future videos, or tips for improvement. If you enjoyed this video, there will be many more challenges in the future, so look forward to it.